Well, it is 7:30, 7:31 just about here, and I guess we're going to get started with our April meeting here. It looks like we've got 65 people in the room right now. Too many to say hi to. It is hold on, I'm going to stop myself from echoing here. And I guess we're going to get started with our April meeting here. Sorry about that. What we heard there was a replay of the video of this that's now going out over YouTube. So if you want to go check the chapter's YouTube site, you'll be able to see us with tape delay. That's something we hope to do from here on out. But anywho, happy Good Friday to all. Happy Passover and any other holidays that you may be celebrating. Thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to have a great show. Excellent show. Just a couple of very quick announcements. You probably saw the titles going by a moment ago. We've got a great meeting set up for next month. It is on a Saturday. It is Saturday, the 8th of May. And we're going to have a presentation featuring the work of the Godfather, John Jebko. He's been shooting Kodachromes since 1950, 52. And he has some friends that have been scanning them and putting some of them up online. And the show that they're going to put together for us that we are doing in conjunction with the Northwestern Illinois chapter of the NRHS. His show is going to be all Rock Island stuff, starting just after the shutdown in 1980, when working backwards to about 1973. That promises to be a very interesting, very fun show. And once again, that's going to be on a Saturday, not our typical Friday, but Saturday, the 8th of May. Hope you can make that. Then in June, our June monthly meeting, which will be the 4th of June, on the regular day, which is going to be a Friday, Brian Sykes will be doing a presentation about communications and signaling on the railroad. Brian is a retired CNS professional from Norfolk Southern. He's also a member of the Wisconsin chapter. And so I'm really eager to look forward to see that program coming up in June as well. So tonight's program is Bob Gallegos. We'll turn it over to him in just one moment here. He's waiting in the wings. He has scanned thousands of slides during this pandemic, and you know what? He's not going to show you more than a couple hundred of them tonight. So that's a good thing. We'll get to Bob in just one second. But first, I noticed that we have two people from the NRHS National in the room with us tonight, Mr. Tony White, Vice President, and Mr. Al Weber, President of the NRHS. I'm going to turn the floor over to them to see if either of them have anything to share with us from National. Tony, Al?
Go ahead, Al. I have nothing.
Well, we're working on the convention. With the CDC report to today, I expect all of you to show up because all of you, of course, are of the age group that have had your shots. I'm not yet. I'm only 39, Jack Benny's age, of course. The problem with using that line is that everybody that knows who Jack Benny was is dead. Other than that, things are going good. We just did, hopefully you were one of the people who got our member survey. Hopefully you sent it back. We're tabulating those now, and things are going good.
And Al, we should mention the city where the convention is to take place. That's Milwaukee.
Yeah, somewhere up there. It's up there in the north someplace, they still
Yeah.
have snow,
So
I think. We call that
as you
white
say,
sand.
there won't be any snow in August. I can almost guarantee it.
Oh.
Uh, but so yes, I would say that everybody who is an NRHS member and is in the Milwaukee area should come, and everybody who is an NRHS member from like an outlying place, whether you're in North Las Vegas or Long Island or um, Riverside, California, or any of those places in between, please do consider coming to Milwaukee for the convention in August. We don't have anything signed yet or anything, or we don't have any details that we can share at this point, Al. You're still muted there, sir.
So you don't hear me. Almost everything, all contracts have been signed. We have a hotel, we have all that, but as our normal thing, we don't really release that until we release it to everybody at once to give everybody an equal chance. So everything's ready to go. Matter of fact, several people are going down there to review some more stuff during the RPCA convention, which is in 2 weeks. So things are going.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you for that report, and thanks also for joining us here tonight, Al. Okay, now with that, I think we've taken care of pretty much all of our housekeeping and such for the night. And so I'm going to turn it over to my friend Bob. We had a little music playing prior to this little during the interlude while folks were checking in and stuff. And there was a song there from Johnny Cash, I've Been Everywhere. And when I think of my friend Bob, I think of a guy that has been everywhere. Bob has been everywhere, man. And even in Fond du Lac. You notice Johnny Cash mentioned he's been in Fond du Lac. But with that, I'm going to just turn this whole shooting match over to Mr. Gallegos with his presentation. Go ahead, Bob. It's all yours.
All right, let me get the screen up here, and we'll get going. You disabled my screen sharing, Mike.
You're a co-host, Bob. You should be able to.
No, it says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you know what, Mike? You have my phone on as yeah. So you have to change it.
All right, try it again.
Okay, here we go. Okay. Can everyone see that? All right.
Yes.
I see thumbs. Okay, so I've scanned a lot of slides in the last year, thanks to the pandemic. In fact, about 30,000 of them. And, I'm fortunate I can scan big batches at a crack. So, I can do 140 Kodak tray in about 3 hours. So that's not too bad. And I just load up the trays, turn it on, and let it run. So what I noticed as I was putting together the show, as I was scanning, was it was like I'd taken the trips again. It was great. So here we go. So back in 2000, I was in an NMRA group called the Railroad Industry Special Interest Group, and it basically we went and toured railroad served industries for modeling. And some friends from the North Star chapter, and I went up to. We took the train out to Baltimore. So I think this is Prince, West Virginia. I not quite sure, but I think it was Prince. So we get to Baltimore, and one of the first things we did was we got to tour the Curtis Bay Company's coal docks, which was a subsidiary of CSX. And
Bob, are you talking? Can't hear you.
We've lost you in New York.
He's been having internet trouble on and off, so he might be.
Yeah.
are you hearing me at all?
We are now.
You said something about a docks, and then it stopped.
Yep, and then it stopped.
That's strange. So you heard me start, and then it petered out for a bit.
Yeah, it petered.
Okay, well I'll keep going. This is the Curtis Bay Company coal docks. One of the best views of the Baltimore of the port is from the top of their. Where's my mouse pointer, Dan? Is it out of the frame now? So we got to climb up to the top of one of the loaders, and here's another one of the loaders here, and as you can see, they're just big spindly cranes with conveyors going up, and off to the right is the car dumpers where loaded coal trains come in. There's a bit of a stockpile that would normally be between the crane rails down below. This day we were there between trains and boats. This is part of the stockpile here too. Dumper house on the left, and then you have what they call the Barneys that move loaded cuts of cars through the loaders. So I need to take care of something. Oh shoot, I can't do it. Where's my? I got to back out of the show here for a second, just a quick second. It's a technical issue. And it's not involving my internet for once. Okay, I apologize for that. Can everyone hear me now?
Hear you
Okay.
in New York.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I see a thumb. I see a thumb. So, okay. So these are the rotary dumpers. You can see. There's two of them. One within a shed, and then one rotary in a half a shed. And for those model railroaders in the audience, the guy in the light jacket is Dean Freitag. He was along with us on the trip. So, this is the back side of the dumpers. Now you can see the two tandem dumpers that they have, and then they have car retarders also, because they'll shove cuts of cars and let them freewheel onto another ramp. So this is what they use to switch the cars in and out of there also, because the Barneys don't go to all the dumpers. They're basically Caterpillar powered switchers that are 100% remote control. They have a couple of these things that that putter around the moving cars. This here is there were coal trains starting to come in when we were there. This was back in the year 2000. So, CSX and the older nice scheme, and the NS Top Guns were the big deal for NS at the time. The rotary, the bucket loader in the background stands about 10 stories tall. It's really an immense structure or machine. And there's two of them down at two similar machines down at Burns Harbor, Indiana, and then another one in Superior at the DM and IR docks. So you had the nice view from the top of the loader. You can also see this building in the distance. So we'll take a look at Domino Sugar now, another one of the railroad served industries that we visited. This is the view from Fells Point, the old industrial street trackage where the Baltimore Industrial Museum is. And the sign there is actually in the process of being replaced with an LED version as we speak. They're actually hoping that nobody notices the change once it's done, because it won't be burnt out half the time. So off to the left, you'll see a boat, an ocean-going vessel, and a barge loaded with tank containers. You'll see more of those here in a second. So this is a Domino Sugar tank car, 16,000 gallon tank car, funnel flow. At the time we were there in 2000, they were phasing out this paint scheme, but these colorful cars, you can find them all over the East Coast. And American Sugar Refining is actually what the reporting marks are. They were also heavily involved with West Coast sugar beet operations on the SP. So here's that barge full of tank containers. Each one of those tank containers is loaded with liquid sugar that will be piped into Domino, where it'll be boiled up, refined, and then recrystallized into regular sugar. This is one of the bulk crystal sugar unloaders. It's a bucket system, and same type of structure as the coal loaders. And this is the open hold of a bulk sugar ship. That's the boat that was in the scene earlier. So you can see that clamshell is actually going down for another scoop of raw, unrefined, crystallized sugar. They handle it just like any aggregate in bucket loaders and open air conveyors, because it eventually all gets purified in the refining process. Little toot here is the Plymouth Switcher that keeps all the cars moving in and out of the plant. If you look to the left there, the tank car is for carrying molasses and liquid syrup. The car on the left of it is an air slide hopper that's used for handling bulk crystal sugar. So there's I know there's a little bit of grain in this image. After all, it is an elevator. This is one of the grain export elevators at the port. And they had that little 65-tonner switcher. At the time, though, because of the time of year we were there, it wasn't busy. There was not a lot going on. We were there in April. So there's the switcher again under the unloading sheds. You notice there's 3 tracks in the unloading bays. And like I said, they let us, another company that just let us go wherever we wanted. So we walked right on through the loading sheds and got to shoot this. It was one of the last surviving boxcar shakers for unloading bulk grain. This device, it's a hydraulic device. It would pick up a boxcar, turn it on its side, and then lift one end and then the other, and all the grain would flow out the doors, the open doors on a 40-foot boxcar. You know, once covered hoppers became common, became the norm. This thing hadn't been used. In 2000, this thing hadn't been used in about 10 years, the guy told us, one of the guides. So from there, we went over to the Canton Railroad Pier. Unfortunately, we never actually saw a Canton Railroad switcher because that was one of the tours they had got. I think it had gotten canceled at the last minute, which would always happen on our industrial tours. Is there'd always be somebody that would cancel out. But parked alongside one of the piers there was this U.S. Navy hospital ship, the Comfort, and I guess it's still in use. We also got a quick tour of the Seagram's Distillery, and I realized that I didn't take too many pictures there because it was so dark inside. And but these 2 cars are full of whiskey, and it was pretty interesting because you could really smell the liquor. I mean, it smelled wonderful where they were loading these cars. So another tour on the trip. The next one was the Baltimore streetcar shops, Baltimore Light Rail, and this, for some reason, this was the only image I actually scanned of the streetcars. So we 2 friends of mine, Dan and Don from the Twin Cities, and we went over to the Northeast Corridor because I had heard some rumblings that the Acela trains hadn't been put in service yet, but they were making test runs every day. So we went out. We were able to shoot a couple of the MARC commuter trains and some Amtrak trains. And I apologize for the blurriness, but we got hit with a thunderstorm. And there's Dan and Don, partners in crime. We did catch a CSX freight working on the corridor. And here we got lucky and did get the Acela test run.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
We're still seeing that 9:39 a.m. 7. It hasn't advanced yet.
Okay, I see that there. Okay. Okay, are you back to that image?
Yeah, back to the 9:39. We saw Dan and Dawn real quick, and there they are.
There they are again. Okay, you're up to the CSX. Okay. And we did get the Acela. As you can see, the Amtrak train way off in the distance. We shot the Amtrak train, and then this came the other direction. And boy, they sure sneak up on you there. We went to the south side of Washington, D.C., down to L'Enfant Plaza Depot, caught one of the VRE trains. I don't know if I don't think this was the same day though. So, you know, like I said, I was just sort of scanning at random what I had in some bins and on side trays. And I'll start with some more of the East Coast stuff that I got to relive. This was in 1989. I hadn't moved to the Midwest yet. I was actually on my way from Halifax, Nova Scotia, back to, technically I was going to Seattle. I never made it past Milwaukee, but this was at South Paris, Maine or New Hampshire. I don't remember. I think it was Maine.
Maine.
Yeah, okay, Maine. Thank you. Springfield Terminal at Rigby Yard in Portland. This is some of the stuff that was inside the roundhouse. An SD-26 ex Santa Fe, a U-18B, still in Maine Central colors. There's a Boston and Maine Switcher to the right, or yeah, Switcher or Jeep to the right. This is from a totally different trip. This is from 1986. And Susquehanna had just started operating the D&H under directed operations during the Guilford strike. And this was what the local rail fans considered a ho-hum lash-up for the day. And my friend from my friend Jim from California and I got into town, and we were going nuts over this lash up, and the other local fans were not just sort of sitting there. This was also in the same engine facility at Conklin, New York, Binghamton area. So there was some neat stuff around, but you know, we only had limited time in the facility. You know, they finally caught on to us and sort of said, "You guys got to be over there," you know, outside of the gate, you know. So we got out, but we did get some good shots. And they said, and they even told us, "Take all the pictures you want on your way out," you know. So this was a short line out of Owego, New York. This was 1988, another trip I was out. They had this beautifully painted Lehigh Valley-esque RS1, and their big business at the time was hauling propane to a storage facility at the end of their line from the D&H connection. So we happened to catch them in the evening, or just before sunset, and this was a great catch. And I discovered recently that some of these units have been scrapped, not sold, but actually scrapped. Another trip east, this is from 1990. This is the Monongahela Railway Manor branch in Time, Pennsylvania. And that's a Conrail coal train headed to the Bailey No. 2 mine, which is at the time was the largest deep shaft coal mine in the country. Detroit Edison trains were a regular fixture down there, and this was just sort of a small town scene with the Detroit Edison train heading north towards Pittsburgh in West Brownsville, Pennsylvania. Butler, Pennsylvania was the heart of the Bessemer, and this was just a random shot I got of a road freight leaving Butler in 1989. In 1990, I went with a couple of friends down to Cumberland, and One of the guys talked our group into a really great tour of the roundhouse and locomotive shops. And this is just one of the images. There was still some B&O painted stuff with the sunburst there. There's a C&O unit off in the background. There's Seaboard System and Chessie. Yeah, it was a pretty cool day. This is in 2003. Where was this? This was 2002. In Decatur, Alabama. And I'm not really sure how this shot got in with other stuff I was scanning, because it was the only one in one of the boxes. I must have misfiled it. And, you know, speaking of some of those industrial tours, this was just sort of a random neat shot of coal mining trucks, and I thought I'd throw it in. So this was Crouch Mining in near Johnsonburg, Pennsylvania. So as a mobile railroader, I've always been interested in the Camas Prairie Railroad out in Montana, Idaho, and Idaho and Washington. So one thing I did with scanning was I was able to scan all 50 rolls of film I shot out there back in the year 2000. So here we go for a look at a few of those. Camas Prairie RailNet by that time had already purchased the lines from the UP and the BN, who jointly owned the railroad from Air, Washington to Lewiston, Idaho, and then up into the mountains on a couple of different lines. This was they had a fleet of Norfolk or Western Railway high hood U-23Bs or B-23-7 that they had chop nosed. So this is one of the units on the road freight to Washington, to the UP. And it's a lot of wide open spaces out there. This is following the Clearwater River out of Clarkston, Washington. This is the Clarkston, Washington port, where some logs were still brought in on barges and then offloaded here for movement to the potlatch mill. This is another shot farther down the river. As you can see, it's just beautiful country, and it's an odd combination of wheat fields wheat fields, grazing land, and pine forests. So here's that same road freight, the base of the mountains. The potlatch mill was served by rail and water, and that's the big paper mill. This is their sort yard. Getting to the other side of the mill was not really possible because it was hard up against the river. But that wasn't the part of the mill I would be modeling anyway. So we went over to the yard here where there were a lot of log cars in storage. They hadn't resumed operations after a interruption in service. So to get from Lewiston, Idaho to Clarksville, Washington, this is the bridge, the lift bridge over the Clearwater River. So, oh, I see that. Okay, yeah, it hasn't advanced. Did that advance? Oh, it's advanced now. Okay. So this is the lift bridge across the river. So now the Camas Prairie came into Lewiston from the west and split into two directions. At one time, three directions. The most scenic line was the line up to Lewiston, up to Grangeville. And with all the wooden bridges, they called it Idaho's Railroad on stilts at one time. And this was the highest bridge on the line, but pretty inaccessible without a long hike. And we knew that we would only get one train there on the line because they were down to running twice a week. So I had to settle for a shot down from down below. That was weird. This is a swing bridge in Kuski, Idaho, on one of the other branches. And this branch at one time was a really busy logging branch, but after the logging lines quit, it was still busy for hauling a little bit of lumber, some logs were trucked in, and then there was a sawmill on the line, and of all things, a cedar pole yard. And the bridge was built as a swing bridge. And what happened was, like quite a few bridges, it was rotated once when it was opened and never rotated again, because navigable traffic never again came up the river. So this bridge was never used again. What's interesting is that in HO scale, a company actually came out with a model of this bridge, and they built a beautiful handmade brass model. They built 20 of them. And if you see up on one of the center posts, there's an eagle's nest. The eagle's nest is even on the model that they built. So one of the reasons I chose to model this line is just pretty spectacular open scenery. Once you get up on the Camas Prairie itself towards Grangeville, you're on an elevated prairie, and it's just this rolling countryside that's with really fertile fields and a lot of grain production. And at the end of the line, there's also a big sawmill because of the close by logging. So here's here's that same road freight that was going up the big bridge. If you notice, the cars are small. They're those 4,000 cubic foot PS2s. Past the
Hours on the bridge.
I see that. I'm waiting to see if when we tested last night, it sometimes would just delay. So
Bob, do you want me to present it from my machine?
Yeah, let's give it one more try. I don't think it's been pretty good so far, but let me just start it up again here. No, it hasn't advanced. Yeah, I think we're going to have to do that. Yeah, Mike. You're on slide 58. Okay, that works. Sorry about that, Mike. Well, we knew this might happen. So as you can see, it's a lot of farmed land and a lot of grain production. Go ahead and advance. Okay, so yeah, this is typical of the rolling hillsides there. As you can see, if you're a diesel nut, you can see that those are not your standard noses on those GEs. So go ahead. Just more, a few more shots of the rolling hillsides and panorama views. Go ahead. This is one of the crossings of, go back one. Okay, there we go. This is along the way, Highway 95, US Highway 95 plays cat and mouse with the railroad. And as you can see, there's this nice tall steel bridge over the highway. And then you can see some of the wooden trestle work up on the hillside in the background. I had actually started construction on this part of my layout before I moved. So, but anyway, go ahead. This is another one of the trestles just outside of Cottonwood, Idaho. This had to be downhill from Cottonwood because it's got one of the larger hoppers. The largest 100-ton hoppers could not go all the way to the end of the line at Craigmont. So go ahead. Okay, then this was one of the elevators at Fenn. The name of the town was Fenn, Idaho. Just not too far from the end of the line. And as you can see, the track gets a little shakier towards the end. So go ahead and we'll go into the Pacific Northwest. A few other things I've had gotten to shoot. This was the Oregon Coast Railroad out of Tillamook, Oregon. I'm riding on an Alco C415, and the tracks just skirt the coast there. Go ahead. Deer Lodge, Montana. I think that's the old Milwaukee depot there. This was the Montana Western Railroad that took over. No, that was the NP depot. This was the Montana Western Railroad that took over the Northern Pacific line from Garrison into Butte, Montana. This is Garrison, Montana at the end of the line. The tower was still standing in 1988. Okay, go ahead. BNSF ran some employee appreciation specials out of Seattle, Tacoma, Yakima, I think Yakima. No, Wenatchee, Washington. This is east of Wenatchee on the BNSF main line, and they repainted the the SP 4449. They repainted it into this nice black scheme, and it actually looked pretty good in this scheme. Go ahead. I see you advanced. It's not advancing on my screen now. Okay. Hold on, okay. This is a BNSF freight rolling through Yakima Canyon. BNSF had just reopened the Stampede Pass line, and this is the east end before you get to Yakima. Go ahead. Just a few shots from along the line. It's beautiful country. The road follows very closely. And if you want, you can actually get into an inner tube and float down the river following the tracks. It was really tempting that day, but this is a work train because they were still doing some finish up work on Stampede Pass.
I think
Can
we
you-
lost Bob.
Oh, you got me back.
Okay.
Okay. But my internet here did drop. I'm actually on cellular now. So okay, so anyway, this was just things in. No, I'm not muted. Am I muted? No. Okay. So here's a quick look at Simpson Timber's logging operation. The trip I took out in '97, we actually got rained out, and the a couple overnight a lot of things flooded. So we were lucky to get a log train running. This is at Shelton, Washington. Those were fire tank cars. Here is one of their typical freights, an SW 900 and loaded log bunks, skeleton log cars, and they had some ex-Milwaukee log flats in there too. Go ahead. And that was one of their cabooses. And by this time, they were only running about 10 miles of track. So this is downtown Seattle. Hold on just a minute. I'm going to mute myself for just a second. Okay, sorry about that. Those were scenes in Tacoma. This is the Chilachi Prairie. It was a little short line that started up tourist operations over the Longview, Portland, and Northern. Go ahead. This was I think at the time it was called the Ballard Terminal Railroad. They had this ex-Milwaukee SW1 switched to about a mile of track. We'll go into Canada. Go ahead. I used to go to Canada a heck of a lot, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go from coast to coast. This is outside of this is a CP train running on what became the Chicago, the CMQ, the Central Maine and Quebec, and then Now it's back to being CP. But this was what it looked like in the year 1988. So all Alcos on that end of the railroad, pretty much all Alcos. Couple of Jeeps here and there. Go ahead. This is back up. Yeah. This is in Hamilton, Ontario, at the TH&B, Toronto, Hamilton, and Buffalo roundhouse and shop area. Go ahead. This was outside of Kamoka, Ontario, sort of a busy junction on Canada's passenger corridor, Detroit or Windsor to Montreal. Another shot along the corridor with CP Alco there. This is Kamoka. This was a very busy junction on CN and CP, and via trains would jump from one railroad to the other to either go to Windsor or to Sarnia to connect with U.S. trains. Go ahead. Back in 1986, I went up to the 1986 World's Fair in Vancouver, BC. And one of the things we did was we rode up to let's see. No, this is the 1989 trip. Sorry. This is 1989 trip up to Prince George. And this is Seton Lake. And if you look, that big black thing on the right, that's actually a locomotive that was floated up to the surface from a wrecked BC Rail freight. And once they got it up, they didn't know what to do with it because there was really not an easy way to scrap it out there on the shore. So it sat there for quite a while until they figured out what to do with it. At the time, BC Rail was switching over to the red, white, and blue scheme here that you see. And this was in 1989, up near just south of Prince George. The goal of the 1989 trip was to get up as far as we could to shoot the electrics on the Tumbler Ridge line. And as you can see, we were pretty successful. This was actually the point where they would exchange electric helpers for diesel helpers. There was a tunnel that they didn't want to run the diesels through. So they built it cheap without ventilation. So the crew decided to let us offer us a cab ride, and they followed us in our rental car. The conductor did. So go ahead. In 1979, I went up there with my parents, and I was able to get this shot. The yard crew let me ride along in their switch job, and I shot the Royal Hudson coming in, being switched. This is back to the 1989 trip. This is one of the ex-Erie Lackawanna C425s. Go ahead. Go. Yeah. 1989 trip. This was riding the cab of the RDC heading north towards Prince George. We met one of the road freights. This was at Lillooet. I don't remember how that worked out, but somehow I shot the freight again. Same one. Go ahead. This is out in outside of Cranbrook, British Columbia. So now we'll go out to the West Coast and a few random things that I shot when I was in college and as a kid. This was in Daggett, California, one of the rebuilt Amtrak SDP 40Fs. Go ahead. This was a securities analyst special at Java, California. This was a combination of ferrying helpers over Cajon Pass back to San Bernardino to help eastbound trains and a local. So this was basically out the back of my apartment in Riverside, where I went to college. This was in California. This was probably about 1985 or so. No, this was 88. So go on. Just got lucky on shooting the Southwest Limited coming south down Cajon Pass one day. This was at Tivor, and there was a Genesee and Wyoming business car on the tail end, and of course, they lost a unit and put those Jeeps on the point. This was the publicity train when Santa Fe that they ran for company photos when Santa Fe readopted the war bonnet scheme. This was the San Jacinto local, again at the end of my street where I used to live. Jeep 20 working up the 3% grade. This was an Amtrak special in 1989 where they were giving quick runs out of Los Angeles Union Deep passenger terminal. This was in the scan pile. It was a chop nose H1644 that I got to ride in Chihuahua, Mexico. In 1983, I got to ride the Rio Grande Zephyr right before the end of through service with the mudslide, and there was a bit of a blizzard, and they didn't wash the windows quite as well as they had in the past. But Dutch doors were available for shooting things like this. Go ahead. This was a shot at coming through Oxnard on the 1984 World's Fair Daylight return trip. This was in 2007. Some of the last slides I shot. This was in Plaster City, California on the narrow gauge. This is Trona Railroad leaving Trona, California. This is the commuter station in San Francisco. Those are Caltrain cars. This is the Harbor Belt line. It's a short line that switched the port of Los Angeles. This is about 1986 on the California Western skunk trains. Baldwin pulling Erie Stillwell coaches. Gaviota, California on the SP, a northbound train crossing the viaduct. Commuter action in 1984. south of San Francisco near Bayshore Yard. And this is a little farther north on the line, not too far out of San Francisco proper. This is the Ringling Brothers train at Beaumont, California. This is that Louisiana World's Fair daylight rolling through Roll, Arizona, splitting the semaphores there. This is an SP train in the late 90s, or late 80s, rolling up San Mateo Canyon. This is taken actually in my hometown of Montebello, California. This is the old UP main line, but this was taken in about 88, 89, somewhere in there. There was no date on the slide. And it was rolling, the head end was in Montebello, the rear end was in Pico Rivera. This is City of Industry with some of the first Metrolink trains. It's a UP station, but SP and Metrolink also operated on the line. This is Ketty Y in California. When I first got a 35 millimeter camera in 1980, this was one of the first trains I got to shoot. It was a grain train coming up from Long Beach, California at the East LA yard. And my dad, I couldn't drive yet, so my dad had parked at an inopportune spot with the Caprice Classic there. So I had the car in the picture, but I guess that dates the picture too. So this is in Montebello. Well, this is in East LA, East Los Angeles, at the entrance to Union Pacific's East Yard. This is Walnut, California. Typical Union Pacific train of the 70s and 80s. This is a Centennial coming into East Yard at East Los Angeles. This was the daily piggyback train. Out in the desert on Sema Hill on the Union Pacific line, the old Los Angeles and Salt Lake. And this is also Sema Hill with the Kelso sand dunes in the background. Okay, this is Afton Canyon on the UP east of Barstow, California. About 1985. This was 85 at Cajon Siding in California, meeting the Desert Wind. So now we'll take a look at stuff between there and back here in Wisconsin. An interesting graffiti boxcar in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And yes, the car was in service. Texas Northeastern at Wichita Falls, Texas in Sherman, Texas, 1992. 1992 Prescott, Arkansas, the Prescott and Northwestern Railroad and their open air engine house. This is another look at the engine. They were just putting it away when we got there. This is the DeQueen and Eastern at DeQueen, Arkansas, crossing the KCS there. In the same area, the Kiamichi Railroad at, this was actually at Ashdown, near Ashdown, Arkansas. The Kyle Railway, GE, and one of their SD39s at Phillipsburg, Kansas. This would have been the year 2000. It's one of the SD39s. Emporia, Kansas, just what looks like a typical BNSF auto rack move until you get to the next shot, which shows that it had one of the SD45-2B units on it. $1985 in Wichita, Kansas. UP in Sedalia, Missouri in 1992. This is the Trans-Kentucky Transportation in Paris, Kentucky at 1991, I believe. 1992, sorry. 1986 or 1996, I'm sorry. The Monon F units from the museum in Indianapolis were used by the Central Railroad of Indiana to haul trains out of Kokomo, Indiana, and they were switching one of the small industries along the line. So now we'll come back home, and this section. I mean, the other section's been jumbled, but this one will be a total train wreck. Go ahead. This is Chena, Illinois on the BN back about 91. 1990, the Belt Railway of Chicago was still running all the C424s, and that was in in clearing yard. This was the last Chicago, Missouri, and Western road freight heading south in 1989. Go ahead. That was at Bloomington, Illinois. Sorry. This is Ottawa, Illinois. And is that thing trying to advance on its own, Mike? Mike? Well, this is Blue Island, Illinois. CSX power move. That's the other end of the power move. Go ahead. This was the Oak Creek coal train in 1990 with Northwestern Power. And that actually ran down into southwestern Pennsylvania on the Monongahela. That's where it had come from. This is Norfolk Southern road freight at Homan Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. L&N, Chessie, and Seaboard System and CSX Power sitting at Bar Yard in 1990 in Chicago. Same day, I think this was the same day, one of the transfer runs from the Grand Trunk down to Yard Center in Dalton. Chicago Central coal train power at Joliet, Illinois. This was one of the Amtrak Hiawatha's with one of the ex-Go Transit Jeep 40 TCs. Back when they were brand new, this was 1989 when I first moved here. This is like the third day I lived in Milwaukee, and this came through on a Sioux Road freight. So I made an effort to shoot it. This was some of the Jeep 40 patch jobs down at Lake Tower, 1989. CP and Sioux Power sitting at Midway in the Twin Cities. During the early 90s, there were some Indian uprisings in Canada, and they blocked the main lines. This was one of the Indian detours hitting Grand Crossing tower in La Crosse. Again, the first month I lived here, this was one of those wide nose SD60Ms heading west in the afternoon at Duplainville. A Sioux Line Road freight on the D&I at on the D&I line at Savannah, Illinois. Well, Sebula. Somewhere on the south side of Chicago on the Belt Railway, on the Harbor Belt. I can't think of the name of the station though. Illinois and
LaGrange.
Midland. What?
Looks like LaGrange, Bob. LaGrange.
No, it was down there around Alsip.
Oh, okay, further south.
Yeah, near that curve. Yeah,
Oh yeah, or Broadview also. Yeah, okay.
that would be broad. Yeah, thank you. If anyone's going to know, it's going to be you. So, Illinois and Midland Power at Springfield. Go ahead. This is a weird one. This is the cement company at Ogles. It's Oglesby, or it's Illinois Portland Cement at Oglesby, and that was on the Illinois River Bridge. The crew let me ride along, and they stopped the train in the middle of the bridge to let me get out and shoot. So
That was my hometown.
oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's the original Gruber line, Bloomington to Freeport. Or
Yeah, this was the Iowa Northwestern. They tried to get into the excursion business, and I know I went out for their inaugural run, and I'm not sure that they ever ran again. So, at Ocheyedan, Iowa. Go ahead. EJ&E had picked up some Utah Railway SDs, and this was one of them, leading an EJ&E coal train to the power plant on this almost to Whiting, almost in Hammond, Indiana, but it's on the Illinois side. I don't think the power plant's there anymore. Of course, the Challenger came to Milwaukee, and this is at Drexel Avenue, heading south.
We must have been standing side by side.
Oh yeah. This is 261 on one of its trips to Galesburg and back. This is at Buda. And this is one of the trips into Chicago, crossing the Diamonds at Rochelle. This is the river bridge on the old Wabash outside of Decatur, Illinois. That was probably 91 or so. 1990, this even could have been late 89, right as I moved here. I went down to Freeport just looking around, and came across the power sitting there. This is the Milwaukee River Bridge next to Hanson Storage in almost downtown Milwaukee, south side of downtown. Go ahead. Tuscola, Illinois. Is this Tuscola or Tolona? I always get the two mixed up. Where the UP crosses the IC.
Tuscola.
CN. Tuscola. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead. This is at Beaver, Michigan. This is a plow train that I happened to catch back in like 97. So working the line up to Ishpeming. Mid 90s, got to ride over the North Shore Mining Railroad on one of the American Society of Mining Engineers annual trips, and got to ride behind these nice units, SDs, and got to get into a few interesting places to shoot them loading and unloading and whatnot. This was I think this is the loader at Babbitt. So Go ahead. This was a meet on the line from the passenger train. Go ahead. Yeah. This was one of the rail fan days at the Monticello Railroad Museum back in 90, probably about 94, 95, somewhere in there. I'm not sure. This is just Escanaba and Lake Superior shot up around Wasaki in the winter. Toledo, Peoria, and Western Jeep 20s crossing Kickapoo Creek and coming down into Peoria in spring of probably about 1999. Chariton, Iowa on the BNSF, and you can see they cover the depot. This is you can pick your wide nose here. This is an NS train at Brighton Park Crossing, holding up two Amtrak St. Louis trains. So, okay, go ahead. 1990 South Shoreline Power sitting in front of the Miller, Indiana depot at night on a sleety night. Street running sometime in the 90s down through Michigan City, Indiana. Very short coal train. Go ahead. Yeah. This is just out on the UP at Lake 5. Lake 5 Road out past Sussex. Almost to Merton. So south side of downtown, the national off of National Avenue, Northwestern Jeep switching the industries down there. He had just pulled out a Miller compressing. Another Northwestern train crossing under the M&S main line near Valley Park, Minnesota. This was my first encounter with the Dakota, Minnesota, and Eastern in 1988 at Hetland, South Dakota, using a real wild lash up of ex-Milwaukee and Northwestern and nickel plate power. This was a few years later at Owatonna, Minnesota, on a rare mileage trip that I got to photograph. This is Ottumwa, Iowa. I&M Rail Link meeting BNSF there at just outside, just near the depot. This is I&M Rail Link rolling down the CP along the Mississippi River. This is at Minnesota City, where the DM&E would interchange trains with the Sioux line. This is the only shot of the Granville Depot I got a week after I moved to Milwaukee, and the week later it burnt down to the ground. So I'm just glad I have a shot of it. And it's the Wisconsin Southern rolling by it. This is the street running up in Green Bay and Western. 1990 also. This is a fan trip for the 1997 NMRA convention in Madison, Wisconsin. They ran out to Boscobel, and this was crossing the one of the rivers out there. This was an excursion that was run during the Madison Train Show. I would say about 2005, maybe. Don't remember the date on this one. In the mid 90s, the 1385 operated over the Wisconsin Southern. They even relettered it for the day, and they ran freight trains with it. This is just between Ripon and Oshkosh. This is at Brandon, switching hoppers. And the kids liked it. So this is the wicket at the state line in 1991, 92, somewhere in there, just before the end. This is the Wisconsin Southern racing the Fox River Valley at Highway 145 in Germantown. Fox River Valley rolling past the West Bend Depot. This is at 124th Street, up right at the corner of Granville and the county line in Milwaukee. This is at 107th Street at Granville, coming off of the coming under the Brown Deer Road. And this was all ho-hum stuff back in the day, you know. Now it's sort of cool to look back on it. That's why it's like taking the trips twice. This was a WC Jeep that was leased to the museum in Osceola. They would run a freight out to the end of the line and switch a feed mill. And this is them stopping at the depot in Dresser in the afternoon. This was when the WC was double tracking the Byron Hill. This was sort of typical CN power, but the CN hadn't actually bought the railroad yet. So go on. This is outside of Manistee, Michigan, on the train going east to the Sault Ste. Marie from Gladstone, Michigan. That's about 1997, I believe. Go ahead. In the early 2000s, this became sort of standard power on the Sault Ste. Marie trains. Alstom leasers. This is a sunset shot at the Escanaba ore dock, unloading shed. This was the excursion that ran from Green Bay up to Ishpeming and back, behind an ABA set of Algoma Central F units. This is at Empire Junction? No, Ishpeming Junction. So this is just outside of Oconto. This is the semi-street running in Manitowoc with the daily road freight coming into town. The day the WC took over the Green Bay and Western, this power actually ran the Green Bay and Western power actually pulled a road freight into Stevens Point, and this was actually the first WC train to run with Green Bay and Western power into Stevens Point. This is at Wisconsin Rapids. So this is just a random shot up towards, I think this is up towards Colgate. This is up in the Upper Peninsula again. Heavy snow in the winter and an SDL 39. They weren't really racing, but yeah, they sort of were. So, okay. This was actually in 1986. No, 1980. Yeah. This was my first encounter with the WC. Yeah, 1986 in Green Bay. It was either WC or Lake States at the time. I don't remember which. This was in July of '86, though.
If it's 86, it would have to be Lake States, Bob.
Okay, I was wondering about that. Thanks. A ballast train at Theresa, Wisconsin, with Grand Trunk Power. That was the circus train at Theresa, behind WSORE units. Just a random WC freight rolling through Marshfield back in the 90s. And this is at Colgate, Wisconsin, in sometime in the early 90s or late 90s. This was 1991, and I just remember this specifically because I had never shot a Sperry car, and this was in Oshkosh. Rudyard, Michigan. The Algoma Central F units would run on freights all the time in the winters. This was a day I got my truck stuck, and they brought the SD45 up, and we pulled the truck out with the SD45 and a tow strap. So this was actually up on the Hayward branch. So I knew the crew. They offered me a ride up into Hayward, so I took them up on it, and I just saw the comment, Dave Nelson. This is the OSB plant at Hayward. This is actually going under the main line. This is where the Hayward line crossed under the main line at Hayward Junction. There was a time in the early 90s where WC had a bunch of these FURX units on lease, made for some interesting shots on Byron Hill. So this is at Theresa with an F45 leading. This Boise locomotive 6-axle unit actually worked the quad graphics job out of Fond du Lac down to Lomira a couple of times when they were demonstrating on the WC. This is at Church Road. This was a ballast train with the SDP 45 leading at New Richmond, Wisconsin. And the final slide of the show, the torture is over. The Jeep 30 sitting at Fond du Lac at sunset. So I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a little hodgepodge, but I haven't scanned everything yet. So thanks for watching.
Well, thank you, Robert. Let's give Bob a round of applause. All righty. Do we have any questions or comments for our presenter? Unmute yourself and shout away to Bob.
Bob.
Yes, I have a question. The shot at Savannah, what year was that taken where you shot the Sioux Line train on the bridge?
That was 1990.
All right, there was probably a 1 in 6 chance I was a conductor on that train.
Oh,
because I was in the pool, but then, so yeah, okay.
I had just moved to the Midwest and I had a job. I was working for a portable, a traveling photo studio at the time, and I actually had to go down to the Quad Cities and Galesburg to work. So I took the whole day before I had to be down there, and I followed the DNI all the way down to the Quad Cities, or to Savannah, and then down to the Quad Cities. And that was one of the shots I got on the trip on the way down.
Bob,
Yeah.
what is you said your scanner can handle you load 50 slides in. I'm just curious, what's the make and model of that scanner, if you know? And do you do any post-processing of the slides after you scan them?
Okay. I use a Pacific Image Electronics it's the 5000 model. So it's actually a 5000 DPI scanner. And it has you use Paxamat, Braun Paxamat slide trays, and each of their slide trays will hold 50 or 30 or 36. They have two sizes. They also have a rotary tray that fits the same format, and it'll fit on the slide viewer. But I've never been able to find one of the 100 slide rotaries. I've looked. So but it's Pacific. If you go to scanace.com, that's the company that sells it. But you'll find them on Amazon too. But it's Pacific Image Electronics. I initially had some problems with it. There was an internal solenoid, and they wouldn't fix it under warranty. But the newest version of it, it's a 6400 DPI.
10,000. The newest model is the 10,000.
Oh, okay, the 10,000. Thank you, Hudson. I didn't know you were on there. So
I have two of the reels. I have the SIB scanner, and the problem with the reels is if it jams, you have to get out the screwdriver and take the whole scanner apart to get the slide out. So it isn't worth it for the 100 slide reel.
Yeah, the 50s are fine. You just get a stack of the 50s and load them and let it go, you know.
Will it also do negatives?
No, I wish.
If they are mounted in slide mounts.
No, I have thousands of negatives that I need to scan as well. The other thing about that is you do end up doing some post-processing. And also I get an occasional banding issue with it, but I think that's just because it's wearing out. I mean, I've probably run over the last few years since I got it, I've probably run 50,000 slides through it. But I concentrated the show on just the last batch of 30,000. And occasionally you get a banding thing. The other thing is the newest one has an LED lighting element. So you're not going to lose bulbs on it. So go ahead. Any more questions?
Yeah, thank you for answering my question. And good bunch of slides, a little bit all over the place, but a good bunch of slides.
Yeah, well, you know, if I had a coherent show, with
if you had a coherent show, it wouldn't have been as fun.
Yeah.
Well, Mike has a point there.
Yeah, that's true. So,
hey, Marshall, I think you were going to ask Bob a question, Marshall.
Bob, I know you got like a lot of great CM&W in their last days. You got to put a show together of that stuff. I remember seeing that stuff and was just floored by it.
Well, you know, you saw the show I put together once.
Yes.
but it was all in trays.
Yes.
But yeah, I at some point I want to put that show together in a full presentation.
Yeah, just seeing the little teaser you had there was like brought back memories. That's such good stuff, man. It's amazing.
Thanks.
Could
And I know
somebody
some of the
call
stuff I've
Dan
seen
Murray
years
and wake him
before on a
up?
big screen and a projector. It was cool to see a lot of that, though. Really nice.
Oh
man.
yeah.
Thank you.
So go on. Somebody else was asking something.
I have a question. I had a question on that, or a comment maybe on that SDL 39 that had the had rotten pumpkin on it. I'm wondering if that was WC because it looks like they painted out where it might have said Lake States maybe.
Well,
So
that
it might
one
have been
said
very early.
Line. At one time.
Oh, that's right.
Said,
That's right. It would have said Sioux Line. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't they at some of those units where it did say Sioux Line like that, they patched out and put Lake States in there or something like that?
Only the 582 got Lake States.
Yeah, there was only like two. There were only like 2 units total that got. I think that got Lakes. The 2 ST39s got the Lake States lettering on the nose. I think, if I remember correctly, that was it.
Yeah, you are the guru for that.
Yeah, and then the Sioux Line. The Sioux Line was really weird about the way they handled those SDL 39s. They sat in the Twin Cities and never turned a wheel for a long time. They wanted virtually nothing to do with them until Lake States came around, and then the WC I think they got 5 to start, and then the other 4 came later, something along those lines. It was something.
Hey, you guys, I'm just gonna jump in here real quick and say we are, as usual, going to maintain the room for anybody who wants to chit chat and talk about locomotives, talk about scanning and so forth and stuff. I just want to, before we stop our recording, ask if there are any more specific questions for Bob before we shut down the official part of the meeting here. So, not hearing any. Again, everybody's welcome to stick around. Our next meeting is actually our informal slideshow that's going to take place on April 20th. And that will feature Steve Glashinsky doing his Midwest Railroads in the 1970s program, Marshall Beecher with his program Calumet Rails, Tom Danneman with his Off the Beaten Path, BNSF's Casper and Cody subdivisions.
Ooh.
My good friend John Taby with 63 years of railroad photography, a prequel, and our vice president and editor of Sparks and Cinders, Keith Schmidt, with 3 little programs called Steamed Rice, Diamond Facets, and 261 Special. And once again, that's on Tuesday, the 20th of April. Then again, on May 8th, it's a Saturday, it's our joint meeting with the Northwestern Illinois chapter, the work of John Jebko, the Godfather, with a program of all Rock Island from him. Jerry Pfeiffer, the president of the Northwestern Illinois chapter, I think is still in the house. Jerry, are you there? Do you have anything that you want to say about that?
Yeah, I'd be here, but no, I don't have anything much more. You covered it pretty well.
Okay.
From the sample slides we've seen, and yeah, it's going to be a good show.
Excellent. And then here's an early info on our Friday, June 4th program. Brian Sykes will be looking at the past, present, and future of railroad signal systems with his presentation, CNS Then and Now. Brian, do you have 10 seconds you want to tell us about that program?
Sure. Okay, off on mute, sorry. You've stated it, you know, the CNS Then and Now, trying to look at the technology used in signal systems, communication systems going back, you know, to early 1900s there. And just some odds and ends, some unusual things that you know that they used to use that they don't use, and stuff that they did that they used way back when, and now you know how has it evolved?
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to that. So with that, we will stop our live streaming on the YouTube, and we will stop our recording. You folks are more